Lights, camera, action. Oh wait, no. Just setting it. Corks and Credit, take one. Welcome to Corks and Credit. It's time to have a drink. Oh, that was a hefty pour, sorry. Gotta share. Welcome to Corks and Credit. We thought it would be a good opportunity for us to share a virtual glass of wine with my cohort, Brad. I'm Alysia, and we're hoping that you at home can also have a glass of wine.
April is Financial Literacy Month, so I thought we'd probably start out just having a quick chat today about financial literacy and credit, how to get it, how to keep it, maybe what happens to you if you screw it up, that we can pass it along to our kids or our grandkids. So I remember the first time I got involved in the comm classes, one of the first times was at your high school. Mm-hmm. After I was finished, one of your friends met you in the hallway. What did he say?
He goes, Alysia, your dad is the repo man. And I was like, whoa. No, he isn't. He doesn't take people's cars. He just takes their money. He's a collections. It really is something that isn't taught in schools. It's quite interesting to see the demographic of people that are coming into our office that do have delinquent accounts, usually on a credit card, and then they don't know what to do. It's like they think it's free money. Or it's like Schitt's Creek when you just say, you write it off. They don't understand what that actually means. It feels like it's almost play money. It's on your fun little plastic card. So for Financial Literacy Month, I do think it is really important that we're trying to make it layman, easy to understand, and I think it's something that's a good refresher for adults too.
Well, back in the day, you guys are old enough of a certain age to remember, the cassettes where you'd pay $5 a month and they'd keep sending you these bloody cassette tapes all the time and whatever. Tons and tons of my friends were subscribers to it, and they all got themselves in trouble because they forgot to cancel correctly or whatever, and so they get this big credit problem because of a bunch of cassette tapes. Well, fast forward that into your guys' generation, right? The big things that most kids get themselves in trouble with, number one is their cell phone, because cell phones report to the credit bureaus, and it's important to keep that up to date. And it's a great way for young people to get a credit rating is to have their cell phone transferred from their parents' account to their own. The second area that most younger people get themselves in trouble is gym memberships. A gym membership is a luxury, it's not a necessity. But there's a lot of penalties for canceling early and things like that, and kids didn't quite understand that. And
well, even adults really don't understand the terms. I remember I went into a gym by my house and I even said, okay, show me your cancellation and termination clauses. And the girl selling it looked at me like a deer in the headlights, like, what? Reading the fine print is a real thing. Even that's not the scroll and click yes immediately, or like, just flip to the back page and sign off. It can impact your credit. I've always grown up as you save your money, you stow it away, you put it in your piggy bank, and then you go and buy stuff. We deal in cash here at the Lohner household. But it turned around and it kind of bit me in the ass a little bit when I wanted to go and get a house. And the banker looked at me up and down, looked at me totally based on age. And she was like, you can't get a mortgage. What I did really learn, and I think is important, credit is very much something you can have a lot of fun with. You have to just know it's like the gambling phrase, like know your limit, stay within it. You can't live like a crazy bougie lifestyle and think that that's not gonna come back and get you if you don't make enough money to pay for it later. Like I made the mistake of just thinking, okay, like if you pay cash for stuff, that looks really good. Well, actually, from a credit standpoint, it doesn't really tell you much about it, especially in our world. We pull bureaus and we see on the collection side about people having basically no information, and like my immediate thought goes to either they pay cash or they just are living in a bush somewhere. Like,
yeah, Oscar,
welcome to Corks and Credit. Cheers, my friend. You want some doggy wine? We'll have to go get you a little bottle. This is our guest speaker, Oscar. I don't have credit cards. My mom and dad pay for me.
And he doesn't pay taxes either. How do you have the second most awkward conversation with your kids? The first we're not going to get into because you all can figure that one out on your own.
I need more wine for this conversation.
Put on your seatbelt. When we first raised our kids, what we did was we wanted them to understand money management. What we did is we said, listen, we have no trouble with you guys working when you're younger, but what's going to happen is you have to save half, and then you can you can blow the other half on whatever you want. So that just sort of instilled a sense of discipline, we hoped, in the kids. And the second one was just, we didn't coddle you guys at all. I mean, we were kind of tough on you, I think.
Yep.
You know, compared to some of my friends that I know what they did with their kids, which is they just gave them the, you know, the credit card and said, here you go, and mom and dad pays for the bill. It becomes kind of this magic card that just sort of gets paid all the time. And I just use it for whatever, but that's not really the reality. You have to understand when the bill comes due, you have to have money to pay for it, right? Each of the kids, at least in my family, had to work hard. They had to get their own credit cards. I talked to them about how to build their credit rating up a little bit. Great ways to do it are getting a cell phone transferred from the family plan to your own plan, because that reports every month. There are some places, if you're renting these days, the rental company will actually report your rental payments to the credit bureaus as well. Some other areas that you can get credit fairly easily are like department store credit cards. So if you wanted to get a small account, let's say with a Bay or something.
There are a lot of businesses though now that are selling credit cards, and they make it like too easy. I know you go around the hockey games. Well, when you could, they'd be like, "Hey, do you want a credit card and a blanket?" And they do whatever they can to try and get you to sign up, whatever their enticing deal is. That it's not just more fun money for you to have, but it is easier to get. I feel like now more than ever. Yeah,
because once you get one credit card or one line of credit, especially when that revolves. Now, a revolving line of credit is something where the balance can fluctuate from month to month, like your credit card. It's not a fixed term like a car loan or something like that. That's called an installment credit, and that's called an I rating on the credit bureaus. And then anything that is a credit card is R, like an R1, R2, R3, R9. Those are revolving, and those are credit card limits. Try and get something that's small. Get like a student visa or something. I think Brian got a student visa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so he liked to collect his scene points. That was his thing, was collecting scene points. You don't have to go hard, but once you kind of develop a small credit limit, you develop a small credit score, it starts to build from there, right? So things to look at were how long you lived at the one residence that you were at. Because what happens is the creditors are looking for stability. They want to see how long you've been at one address. They like to see consistency, right? So if you're moving and you're no fixed address, and good luck getting a credit card. That's not going to happen. Hey, Oscar. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Oscar wants to talk about credit.
Yeah. And so long as you have that conversation with your kids, or at least I found, where they're a bit more conservative in the front end, they're not as likely to want to go out and get that instant gratification with their credit cards, like going out and blowing on a Louis Vuitton bag, or do you need that Louis Vuitton bag, or do you like the Louis Vuitton bag, right? Those are the conversations that younger parents should have, or grandparents should have, if the kids haven't done that yet. There's nothing wrong with grandparents passing that information along as well. So. Okay,
noted. I have a teacher lined up for when I need credit and education for my future children.
There you go. In my utopian world, everybody would be a bad debt so we can collect the money, except that's not the reality of it. A very small percentage of the population has trouble. It's usually the case of bad things happening to good people. You want to have some savings sitting aside, so if you do have a problem, you can meet the credit card bills and whatever else has to happen until your income starts coming back in again, right? So if it's disability insurance or whatever. But credit's awesome. Let's say you don't have your own ski set, right? You want to go skiing with your buddies for the weekend. You can use your credit card. You have to have a credit card to be able to rent some skis or snowboard or whatever, and off you go. Go have a good time. You don't have to spend money on it in order to take advantage of it. However, I do recommend that you do use your credit cards, because if you get a credit card and you just leave it sit in your wallet, that actually goes against your credit score, because you've got a credit limit that you're not using, or the credit bureaus actually lower your score because you're not using that credit card. So use it once in a while. It keeps your card active. So make sure if you have a credit card, make sure you use it periodically.
Like I know my mom and I went to go get we went and got matching cars. Tacky, but I love it. They joked at the dealership like, "Oh, haha, Alysia, you have better credit rating than your mom." And she was like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Mother, it's because you don't really use it. Like Brad said, you're not flexing that credit muscle."
And it's the same for businesses too. We talk a lot about personal credit here. What we found, or at least I found in my years of doing this, is companies' credit ratings are a direct reflection of the owner's credit rating. If the owner understands how to manage his or her money, the business will be just fine, right? But if the owner comes from a place where grandma and grandpa paid for the private schooling and did a bunch of things, and mom and dad couldn't afford it, but the kids were living a lifestyle beyond what they really were capable of paying for on their own, or their parents on their own, that's where the trouble started. And so they typically run their businesses like a piggy bank, and that's where creditors can really get themselves in trouble.
Budgeting and cash flow, like, it's so boring. And it's like, oh, I have less fun money, but
wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I can't go on that vacation. Alicia likes her quarterly vacations when they're allowed. But it is really important, especially like you said with the roommate thing, or it's even thinking about like business partners and different things. It's, can you afford to do or make the decisions that you want to? Or even when you're going into business for yourself or looking to buy into a business, that you think about how is the cash flow managed. So,
should you add your kids as authorized users in your credit card? I would say yes. It's a great opportunity to teach your kids about credit, how it works. It's also a great way to totally implode if you don't teach them properly, right? So, because kids, just look at it, it's this magic card that you just wave it and things come,
tap it here,
the machine goes bleep, and I get my, whatever. Like I said, it's such an instant gratification thing, right? We fail our kids, I think, if we don't teach them the having to pay it back part. If you've got the credit card and it's easy to go out and buy something, that's fine. But I think they need to see the struggle on the back end about where the money came from, how hard it was to save that money, and or to have it available when the credit card comes due, because they all come due. Yeah, I think, sure, kids should have access to the credit card. It's a nice way to have that conversation with your kids. And
I just thought of something. You're probably like, what is she creepy grinning about? The most terrifying thing you could possibly ever see, in my opinion, is when you get your credit card bill and you spend like $100, but it's saying, if you were to pay the minimum payments, this will take you 10 years to repay. And you're like, what? When they break it down to years based on minimum payment and interest rate, blows your mind.
What was interesting is when I was teaching that class for the high schools, I would actually take my Visa statement and I would photocopy it. I'd take out all the credit card information so they can't go shopping on my card. And then we looked at the
repayment.
The repayment, yeah. And you're right, it blows the kids' minds.
It's so scary.
Because they look at it and go, oh my God, this is going to take me 50 years to pay this back. And that's if you're only making just the minimum payment.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, if you have a really good credit rating, they're going to allow you to pay less than what the actual minimum should be, because they want you to carry that balance from 1 month to the next.
They love your interest charges.
Yeah, that's how they make money. So that's okay. That's their business. So note to self, buy bank shares. So what I tell kids is, I said, okay, so if you never spent one more dime on this credit card, like if you took the card and chopped it right now, your income only supported the ability to make at least $10 a month or whatever the minimum payment was going to be, you are going to be 947 years old by the time that credit card gets paid off. Right? Some kids, they catch on to it right away. Other kids, they're doodling and not paying attention. But I guess my thought there was, hey, if I can get to at least 1 or 2 kids, I've paid my debt to society, and we can move on.
Or you've helped their parents at least not have an awkward conversation if they're uncomfortable about it. Or if they're like the scary one, it's like, don't get a credit card. Credit cards equal death and bankruptcy and nothing else. And if you haven't had a great credit history, there are so many things that you can do to sort of start bringing yourself back on track. And we work with a lot of people in our office that have had those troubles regardless of age. I know we've said kids, but realistically, this can apply to anybody. Hard times happen. You don't go out there and maliciously decide to rack up a bunch of bills and not decide to pay for them. And there are lots of things, like we've said, building credit, all of those things is if you had zero credit or if you have bad credit, all of those items can be built together to put you back on track.
Kind of a little sidebar, when you were talking there, the apps on your phones these days, you can look at your phone and you can bring up your bank app. Most of the banks these days actually have a place on there where you can actually check your credit score.
But it is something that's actually really handy, or even things, our products or services like Credit Karma. We get people calling into the office all the time being like, well, I just saw that this was reported to my bureau. Blessing and a curse, because you're like, okay, great, you want to address it. People are becoming more educated about the tools and resources around credit.
I used to do a cool exercise with the kids. So I asked the kids a question, say, who here has traveled to Mexico? And these days pretty much all the hands in the class go up, right? So I asked the kids, so when you're on the beach in Mexico and the guy comes along on the beach and he wants to sell you a sombrero for 400 pesos, do you pay 400 pesos? And everybody in the class goes, oh my God, no, we don't. I said, what do you do? I said, oh, we negotiate. We try to barter and maybe get it for 100 pesos, right? And I said, oh, okay. So I said, so what's the difference between the beach in Mexico and the beach at West Edmonton Mall? And they're kind of like looking at me like I got 3 heads or something. So, but what I'm trying to teach them is everything's negotiable, right? So you don't have to pay full price for something. And in a lot of cases, it's just simple negotiations. In some cases, you can use your credit rating to get better deals, like I talked about before. It's kind of, oh yeah, you know.
Now, why don't we do that?
Why don't we do that? And it's such it's a ingrained practice in North American culture to pay the sticker price, right? Because we don't like to haggle, and well, why not? Let's haggle. Let's have some fun with it. You know, it's the best time to buy a car is when you don't need one. So credit can be very, very good. And I ended the class with the benefits of it. So some of the benefits might be if you have a really great credit rating, you can borrow money at a lower rate. And what I used to do, and I still do in some cases, is I loan it out but at a higher rate. So I am the bank, and so if you've got a really good credit rating, you can borrow money at X% and loan it out at X plus 5 or whatever, and you can make money in the spread. So it's an income for you that you can make, and the reason why you're making that income is because of your good credit rating.
Oh man, I want to go get credit, and then I'll extend it to somebody else at a higher rate.
It's called usury. Whoops. Yeah, so there used to be a thing out there called, and I don't know if it's there anymore or not, but I thought it was brilliant. Some of the banks put it out. A lot of the creditors did, because they're, as much as they are granting credit, they want you to be responsible with it too. You know, so there's different things. And so what they used to have, they used to have this thing across North America called Credit Education Week. And I don't know if it's out there anymore or not, but if I would Google it. And there's great tools, I'm sure, for kids about how to learn about credit, how to learn about budgeting, something to kind of gamify it, make it fun for them. You know, because I remember going to these high schools. Exactly. If you're a parent or you're a grandparent and you know of some kids in your family, or some young ones in your family that you love, I'm sure there's tools there for you to check, to teach kids about credit, how to get it, how to keep it, maybe teach their parents, your kids, about it too.
Reverse.
Exactly. So they're not coming. So if you're one of those parents that are economically supporting your adult children, that's a bad thing. You know, there's lots of them out there too. We see those guys all the time. In fact, we see a lot of that too with some of the credit card files we have coming through here. The person that the debtor, you know, the account holder.
Swear word. That's a swear word.
That's a swear word. Okay, I owe some money.
Cheers.
The
You
account
can't
holder.
say debtor in our office.
The account holder is a senior citizen. You know, and their credit rating was fantastic until 5 years ago. Well, what happened? You know, and in a lot of cases, what's happening is nothing to do with the parent. It's because they're trying to support.
It's who they co-signed for.
Or who they co-sign for. We have an obligation as parents and as grandparents to teach our kids about credit and just being responsible human beings. Right? So using all these different tools, kids don't have to wait until they're adults to learn about credit. You can learn about it now. They can have some fun with it. You can make a game out of it with your kids. Have some fun with it. The lessons you're going to teach them are going to go with them their whole lives. We want people to succeed, because if people succeed and people are managing the credit properly, the economy will boom. People get paid quicker. If you're a company, you get paid. You get your money in faster. You can go out and buy more widgets. You can buy raw material. Suppliers will benefit from it because you can pay on time, and it's economic harmony, right? But if we don't have people paying their bills on time, guess who pays for it? You and me. We're the consumers. That's who ends up paying for it.
So if you have learned anything today in our Corks and Credit rant, all I really can hope is that you spread the love and the knowledge to others. It is something that feels like a very taboo style topic. With the way that you can share information now, share the video, pass it along. You don't know what somebody else is going to take from it, because talking about your finances is not something that you like broadcast out there to the world. Like Brad said, no matter what, it's full circle. It comes back and it can help you, whether it's you personally or your business or whichever. You want to be able to, as long as you're aware, you can do something about it. If you're unaware, well, hopefully there's hope for you one day. I'm just kidding.
Amen to that.
Hopefully there's a piece of information they can take from what we just ranted about.
I want one of those. I want one of those Greek fireplaces where you take the glass afterwards and
shatter it.
yeah, it'd be
Toss
fun.
it to the ground.
Toss it to the ground. Yeah.